Chapter 10. Is forgiveness really necessary? In 2011, I wrote the following status update on Facebook. As I lie down to sleep tonight, let it be in gratitude for my life and in forgiveness to anyone who has wronged me. You may read that and think it is a noble sentiment. For many years, I thought forgiveness was a sign of maturity or wisdom. It seemed difficult at times, but I thought that if I could forgive those who had wronged me, then there was nothing more to be done. Forgiveness was common sense, and it was also incorporated into many spiritual teachings. I didn't imagine there was anything deeper to uncover or learn about forgiveness. However, in 2014, I was telling a mentor of mine, Dr. Keith Blevins, who is a pioneer in this understanding, that I felt I had made significant steps forward by learning to forgive certain people in my life. I was surprised when he asked me, "Why would you need to forgive someone?" Needless to say, I was quite taken aback. I wasn't sure what to say. I was sitting on my large bed in my London apartment talking to him via Skype on one of our regular mentoring conversations. He then added, "You only need to forgive someone if they had the power to hurt you in the first place." I felt my mind go very quiet and I sat very still. In that moment, everything I thought I knew about forgiveness was turned on its head and my brain felt like it was rebooting. The reason I was going through the process of forgiveness was to let go of angry and hurt feelings based on what other people had done. However, Dr. Blevins pointed out to me something I thought I already knew. My hurt or angry feelings weren't coming from other people at all. They were coming from my own thinking about what other people had done or said. The actions of other people had nothing to do with how I felt about those actions, even though that is how it looked to me. This understanding totally changed my relationship to the concept of forgiveness. I suddenly realized it was unnecessary, because if no one could make me feel anything, then forgiveness no longer made any logical sense. No matter how strange it looked to me, when other people took actions that I thought hurt my feelings, they were acting in ways that made complete sense to them at the time. For all I knew, they may have felt as if they had no choice. If they had, they would have likely behaved differently. But I interpreted their actions and behaviors through my own thinking, assigning a meaning that might have had nothing to do with what was actually going on inside their heads. Just as my thinking is fleeting and can change in an instant, so too can feelings of hurt and anger. I now believe that we do not need to forgive anyone in our lives for anything they have done. Once we realize that what we feel about their actions is simply a reflection of our own thinking about their actions. Until we realize this, it's as if we're giving other people the power to make us feel a certain way. Not only is this completely unnecessary, it can cause us to feel further resentment. But when we do realize that no one else has the power to make us feel a certain way, we can live a much happier life without carrying around resentment like a backpack full of rocks. A client of mine had his own huge insight around forgiveness. His father had passed away many years earlier, and my client had a lot of resentment towards him for not being a better father. He had trouble forgiving him, and years after his father's death, he still held a whole host of judgments against him. I run what I call immersion events, where I dive deep into what I am sharing in this book with a small group over a number of days. After attending an immersion event I ran, where I talked about my own experiences around forgiveness, he said he was finally able to let go of his resentment towards his father. He realized now that his father was human, just like him, and that he had simply done the best that he could based on the thinking he had. As you can imagine, it felt like a huge weight was lifted off my client's shoulders. I should make it clear that I'm not saying that you should allow other people to treat you badly. Just as it doesn't make logical sense to me to forgive someone else, it similarly might not make logical sense to be friends with someone if they kept on stealing money from me. I don't need to get upset about the behavior, and I can understand that the other person is acting in a way that makes sense to them, even if I can't understand it. Also, I can choose to not be friends with them. What if we didn't need to forgive anyone who hurts us? I invite you to think of anyone against whom you hold any judgments or resentments. Ask yourself if these people really did hurt you, or whether your hurt feelings are reflections of your own thinking about their actions. If so, what if you did not need to struggle to forgive them? What if this were completely unnecessary and you could simply drop any lingering hurt, anger, or resentment? Wow. That's huge, isn't it? There's so many ideas in our society about forgiveness being a virtue, something that's good to do. It shows that we're a good person. And there in the book, we're hearing the suggestion that not only do you not need to forgive, but actually the whole act of forgiveness uh, suggests that somebody has a power over you that they don't really have at all. And that's the interesting thing for me to see about this. It's not that they do have a power and then we take that power away from them. It's that they never had a power in the first place. It's only through the misuse of thought or through our own thinking that we give somebody else the power over how we feel. And then, in a sense, we take it back again. But I think it's been really important for me to see over the years that they never had any power over how I felt. That was never the case. It was just my own innocent misunderstanding about where feelings were coming from. It looked to me like feelings could come from somebody who'd been unpleasant or unkind or said unpleasant things, about me or about my work. But all of those things are neutral. All of those things were my own misunderstanding. It never worked that way. It never has, it never can, and it never will. Feelings are a reflection of the way we're thinking about something, and they're not a reflection of what we're thinking about or what happened, but only always. See you next time.